I thought we was just gonna have a nice show with our friend Neak on today, but we might have to engage in you know, what's one of those things? Uh, yeah, I'm not. I was just thinking. I'm blanking on the word there. Yeah. When you have to get a person off of something, you
Are
got to
you breaking?
confront them.
Are you breaking up? I think you're. I'm not sure if it's you or me that's breaking up because you're choppy.
It's probably me. My signal is good though. I don't know. Can you hear
Uh,
me?
yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I don't know. We just had a guy from Comcast come over here because the signal just Wi-Fi just been continuing giving me agita. But
Got
yeah,
it.
the signal what I'm reading looks strong. But intervention is the word I was thinking of. We may have to give you an intervention
Yeah,
since
yeah.
you going through your issues. And and seeing how Lord Jamar is currently streaming with Judge Joe Brown, I think we may need to get extra dramatic to compete with that. Like
Oh
that's
man.
also on YouTube right now.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, man. I saw
But
the
that's what I'll get into that with the title of today's show. But
five
yeah,
five.
yeah.
Well, yeah, with the title, you had to fill me in because I know 7:30 what 7:30 mean. I didn't know what 5:30 mean. But anywho,
Well, it's 5:30 for you, but for me, since I'm the host, I'm going by my time, which is 7:30. But
oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, all right.
we
I'm
have
like, wait.
7:30. For those who don't know, who aren't '90s hip hop heads or whatnot, uh, 7:30 is slang that emanate out of New York and it's a shorthand for crazy. Now, I don't know where I heard this from, but I thought for the like up until just like a couple minutes ago that it was based on the hands of a clock
Hmm.
and how the hands look, just akimbo as would be a good word, from the 7 and the 30, you
Yeah.
know. But I see this the problem when you search stuff on Google, you come up with all that. Like I put in 7:30 slang in Google, and it has people also ask and to drop things, and it said what does 7:30 mean in slang, and the first thing it says is that 7:30 means crazy and originated in New York, and it says it comes from the city code used when a perp suffers from a mental disorder. So, and it uses a lyric. It doesn't cite where the lyrics from, but it says they say I'm 7:30, say I spaz out. So I guess that makes sense too, because a lot of slang has come from, police codes and stuff. But
Yeah.
I thought it was always like the clock thing.
I never knew where the hell it came from. So you
Yeah.
research you're one better than me. You researched it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's who I am. But also what was on my mind though is the God hour, as it were. Shout out to
Yeah, I thought
the
about
gods of
that.
the earth. Yeah. And I was gonna spend a little time even with our guest too. I wanted to kind of talk this with him with Neat with the 25th anniversary of It Was Written, and that's a line in the album. Watch the niggas. My Movado says seven the God hour. That's if you follow the tradition started by the school not far from the Apollo.
Yeah, I remember Scott using that on I think what money taught us, and I mean, yeah, a lot of people reference the line, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but that's the original line.
the Nas, yeah,
Yeah,
quote.
and good you mentioned Sky. We got again Sky Zoo will be on this show on Monday,
Yeah,
12th. We're excited for that. But yeah, just I don't know, but I guess in sort of reflecting the times, there's a lot of crazy stuff that is going on, and unfortunately, from our last show, our little pop up that we did last week with Gabe, Weekend Gabe, after he left and we was sending it off, we was kind of warning people, or just telling people to speak to their better judgment over the holiday and stuff. And of course,
I,
that
I,
it
I
wasn't
saw
the
the
case here. Yeah,
I,
not the
I,
case here in Chicago.
I saw that there. I don't know. Some Paul Vallis posted pictures from Facebook. It's really funny how just things go in cycle. And I just remember back when Paul was the CEO of Chicago Public Schools back when I was in. And I don't know if I remember anything special about him as the superintendent,
Yeah,
but I think this is his second run at trying to be mayor, and like he posted something about like all these people jumping on a squad car like
yeah,
downtown or
it was a
something
bunch
like
of
that.
a bunch of teenagers downtown got. Yeah,
And the bad thing about the city is like it's getting a bad rep. Like I saw a video on Instagram about essentially this dude in a Charger trying to like ram a squad car. He was playing. Now, I don't even the term chicken is even the wrong term because he was literally, trying to
and
accelerate
chicken
because
is yeah, chicken is going head first until as long
somebody
as you
some
can and avoid it. Yeah,
somebody veers off, but
yeah.
like he was with a Georgia state trooper, and the Georgia state trooper had a gun on him, and he was trying to accelerate the push his car out the way, and I guess at some point, I guess the state trooper's car knocked his over like a concrete median. It was like in a mall parking lot, and he took off running, and somebody posted like. Atlanta ain't been the same since the Chicago dudes came down here, and I was like, wait. I was like, that's like one as bad as it is. I'm like, I'm not gonna let y'all talk. It's like the mother, the mecca of I say the mecca of niggers behavior in a major metro probably started more in Atlanta than I would even say Chicago. Chicago's kind of I mean, Chicago is what Black Chicago is what Atlanta is without opportunity. And I mean, like the difference between Atlanta is that you have professional mobility there, where you really, in a lot of cases, don't have as a black person in Chicago as nowhere near as much.
You
Like
have it
black people
close. You have it
control
close to a real establishment of black wealth
wealth
in that area.
exactly.
A
So,
centralization of black wealth than you have
and
in
and
any other.
and it's still mad niggerish in some places in Atlanta. I'm like, so it's like y'all don't have no excuse.
Yeah,
You have like it's really interesting. Like Atlanta's one of the few places like they have a all black commercial real estate company. It's like nowhere else in the country they have that, and that's doing well. And that like
yeah.
represents like Google and Amazon, like those people. So I mean those companies, or you have nowhere else in the country like you have an established black middle class that's existed probably for like the last 50 years. You don't have that in Chicago. It still looked like things from the
No.
1980s in places in Chicago. I mean in Atlanta Metro. You don't have that in Chicago. So like to make the argument, but you still have like extreme on the other sides of it juxtaposed. You still have like extreme ratchetness that may exist in Chicago, but it exists based upon poverty and lack of opportunity. So it's like just say, hey, things got bad because you Chicago dudes start coming down here. That's like that's incorrect. Y'all been
But yeah,
wilding
well,
for years.
we're an easy scapegoat, and it's unfortunate, if black folks are saying that because really they're picking up on the sort of talking points of
The
conservative,
dudes,
yeah,
right?
the news and conservative whites and stuff like, you know, for real, it's like
It wasn't bad till
we
y'all came
became,
down here.
yeah, we became the center of all of Black America's woes because Obama came from here. At least as he matured here as a politician, and that's become the talking point ever since he rose to power, and it's still we don't help ourselves a lot with a lot of what we project, but at the same time, like you say, you can't. You're a city like Atlanta has established. They had the fucking big meats down there, man. How you gonna talk about these Chicago niggas coming down there and
It's
changing around stuff
you
that they had?
you had a heat. Yeah, I mean, like you had Freaknik for damn near 20 years. I'm
Yeah,
like, you had a hedonistic party for 20 years, and people look back on that fondly. I'm like, you have things that we you have a deregulated government, which we don't have in Chicago. I mean, it hasn't helped our crime issues, granted, but like it seems like there's anything goes in that market and in that area, and you can't at the same time you have a lot of more economic opportunity there than you do in Chicago as an African American, and you know it's like so you can't solve you but though they have issues that have dealt with crime and violence and all that other stuff like that and education issues historic, despite having those high concentrations of black wealth, they haven't been able to resolve. So I'm like, you're just not going to say in Chicago is unfortunately, I call it, just the shame of major cities, just because we had until recently a majority of people and still treated as third class citizens a lot of cases, just because
Yeah.
of racial segregation and disenfranchisement. So anywho, yeah, I don't know. I look forward to seeing good news come from home, but it's just
But
like
that's the
Jesus.
problem. Whenever you hear news though, like today I saw it on, of course I see it on the local news, but the national news picked it up too. The ABC nightly news picked up that 100 people got shot over the weekend and all this stuff, and a couple of ATF officers got shot.
At
Uh,
the Morgan Park station, yeah.
yeah, in the morning. So, and all this happens at the same time that Biden comes into the area. He didn't come to the city, but at least not. At least they. I don't think he did it all because they would have showed it. But he flew into O'Hare and visited Crystal Lake, which is in the suburb. Um,
Yeah, like Crystal Lake in Chicago is like it's like comparing. I don't. Yeah, I'm like you. It's like you comparing Haiti to a damn resort city in the Dominican Republic or something like that. I don't know. I'm just comparing. It's like it's two different worlds. I mean, like
yeah, it's
so
not. It's
people.
really not. Yeah, no. There's really no connection. It's just geographically is nearby. But that's the thing. Like Biden didn't come to that area. He didn't come to this area to really combat anything that was going on in Chicago. He came here to talk about his plans with free education or something like, because they got a community college up there, and he visited he spoke at the community college, and it's some fluff. It's some relatively fluff stuff.
He
But he
flew
had
from DC to a JUCO in Crystal Lake to implement his college education plan.
pretty
And
much,
ain't enough JUCOs in DMV area to pitch that.
yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, you gotta
Uh,
press the flesh, even though. Well, I guess McHenry. They were talking about McHenry County isn't like a Democratic stronghold, even though the rest of most of Northern Illinois is. But I don't know. I don't know why exactly he came to that area, but
I,
he had to deal with Chicago stuff too, because Lori came to O'Hare and whatever got on her tippy toes and spoke to him and on the tarmac, and
just like
I don't know what that conversation is amounts to, but
we need
they're trying
we
they're
need
trying to
help.
get that yeah they're trying to get tanks to come to the south side, essentially. So they want martial law out here, but let's get into a little of that with our guest. He joined us here, and we're glad to have him on. A great, a good friend of ours, a really great artist representing Chicago here on so many levels, the hip hop scene. And this is the man Neak. What's going on, brother?
What's good, y'all? How y'all feeling? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you
Yeah,
well.
you sound good, bro.
Okay. What's good, y'all? How y'all feeling?
Looking good too, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I've been on the go, so I tried to hurry up and get home, make sure I got set up to get online. So here
Yeah,
we are,
you
man.
you had. I'm the only one who wasn't rushing to get here. Dave had to rush to get from a doctor, and you was rushing from making your moves. So I appreciate both of you guys making the effort so that we could do this show. We've been talking about it for a little while, so you
Right,
know,
man. It's always good to connect with y'all brothers, man. Love y'all dudes, man.
man, we love you too, bro. Appreciate you, man, and so much. Always great to build with you. Like I say, you become a stronghold, a constant here in Chicago from the hip hop scene, and just like you and your crew as yeah, you got a crew, the gold standard click and all that, and all
Mm-hmm.
your guys who you most collaborate with, Phil Moore and
Yeah.
Rashid and Taiwan and Sincere and all you cats, man. You guys make the type of hip hop that makes me
Yeah.
proud to say, this is the shit that's coming from Chicago, and there's not too much of that. Is
Not
this
right now.
Yeah, I mean, I got respect. I got
You
respect for
got
all. I got respect for all the brothers who are trying, and coming out of the city is not easy, and especially the ones who ain't trying to tear other people down while they do it. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, if things were right, if I controlled things, a lot of the shine would be coming off of some of these other people and be focused more on what y'all doing. But I know that time will come, and as it is, you guys I know getting a lot of attention and still getting a lot of plaudits and good reception for your work. So I'm glad
Yeah.
to see how you guys are moving and just the growth that's come from your artistry.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, when I look at it is the way I see it is I focus on the people who focus on me. If I mean, I think people got a choice, for whatever reason, if they not rocking with what we're doing or what I'm doing, I'm okay with that. Like I'm totally fine. I believe in free choice. People can, support and like what they want to like. So I don't spend too much energy on who's not rocking with me or who I think should, because I think it's a waste of time. I remember those days where I used to be frustrated, like, man, why such and such isn't supporting me the way I think they should, or
Yeah.
how, in that facet. So today, I mean, it's enough beautiful people that's really rocking with us, and it's gonna help us elevate and continue to grow. So I'm happy about that. Guys like you, Cal, guys like you, Dave, this, they got a platform like this is bringing me on to this, allowing us to come together and speak. This is what I live for, and this is what I'm grateful for.
But we definitely glad as long as I have a platform, I'm always glad to share it with brothers
Yeah,
like you and you specifically because I consider you a friend. But brothers like you definitely that's part of why I still do what I do. And it's tough because in any type of way when you dealing with independent media, very whether you're an artist, whether you're a journalist,
yeah,
broadcaster, you reach those points where you sort of feel like, man, what am I doing this? Why am I doing this? The way am I doing this? It is not it's you question the reach that you have, and you
yes,
just you have those
I can
doubts. And
relate.
yeah, so I'm sure. So it's kind of tough to push on, but you if you have that urgency inside you and that sense of purpose, you always should. That's what I would give. That's the advice I would give to anybody in that situation. Just keep pushing and the do the work from within, and not try to get try to seek your validation from within and not
Yeah,
necessarily from outside. It'll come if you
exactly.
really about what you're doing and are real about it. It'll come, and you'll find other people to connect with, like you say, who value what you do.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I've been doing this lately, probably over the past year. I I ask myself, and I have to remind myself what I'm doing it for. So I ask myself that question, like, what are you doing this for? Because I think it's good to answer that question over and over again, because it's constant evaluation, it's constant inspection, so you can make sure your motives are in the right place. Because when you start to find yourself not being as motivated, getting frustrated at a lot of the external things that's going on that you can't control, I think it's just good to go back to the basics and just ask yourself, like, why do I do this? What's the point? What's the purpose? and then you just go from there. And I think when you answer that question, you can have that fresh revelation all the time. It keeps you inspired and it keeps you motivated.
Dave, you want to say anything right quick?
Oh yeah, I mean, no, I wholeheartedly agree with all of that. For me, what Kyle mentioned, you guys are some of the bright spots in the city, especially the music right now. Unfortunately, as you kind of already went through, the people who always make the decisions or the tastemakers are not always have the greatest taste, for lack of a better term. And I mean, I always look for, to you guys, the Gold Standard Collective, of course, that being you, Rashid Adi, Fillmore Green,
Appreciate you, bro.
Taiwan Davis, just really just putting out consistently great content and then never wavering. If anything, it seems like you guys always step up, your bars on each project. And that's always what keeps me connected.
No, absolutely, because it's about the art at the end of the day for us. My thing is I can't live in good conscience, put something out that I'm questioning. At the end of the day, I could just do my best at that particular time. I just give it my all in that moment, and then you just hope that people gravitate towards it. And if they don't, you can't control that either. But one thing you can rest assured on is you gave your best effort at that point. You got to study your craft. You got to study yourself. You got to be open for critique. Open for people to tell you the honest truth about what they hear. I mean, that's what we do. We sit around and we play each other's music, and we've all at some point told each other like, no, that's not the song, or no, you can rap a little bit better on that record. All of that stuff just helps make the best, overall product at the end of the day. So that's why you're hearing the elevation, Dave. That's where it come from.
No,
A lot of quality control with you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. Hadi is. I play records for Hadi, and he like, no, that's not it at all. And he's straightforward and he's honest about it, but it's not to hurt my feelings of judge. It's because he cares. I feel like don't tell me. I think Shannon Sharp said this. I love when he said, don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to know. So that's what it comes down to.
You made a very good point, because I think it's interesting that the environment we live in now, when it comes to creative criticism or constructive criticism, sometimes it's misconstrued as hating, and I think a lot of people are sensitive to that. So when you have a crew that support, or that especially if they depend on they're eating upon your product, they don't necessarily give you what the criticisms you need to I guess, improve your game, for lack of a better term. Because there are guys like now, even with some of our favorite rappers, where like the production on the song may be solid, but like the raps are, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And I can speak to plenty of people, kind of, I don't want to name names, but some of the people who are just kind of the well lauded people, it's like either they're coming one way or the other. Like either the song is like the rap is strong, but not the production, or the production, in many cases, overpowers the rap. So we'll listen to something and be like, damn, that's a nice sample, damn, or so had a good verse, but like the main person didn't.
Right. So
and yeah.
No, I was just gonna add on to what you were saying, that at the end of the day, I want to make the best song. I don't want to have the best rap. I don't want to produce the best beat. I want the best song, because the record is what's going to translate. And people, listeners, if they not really hardcore hip hop listeners and they tune in the lyrics like that, like they're not deciphering, if this is a good beat or it's a good song. They it's either good or it's not. And I don't want to leave it up to chance, right? And at the end of the day, we don't I think a lot of people, and I'm speaking from an artist standpoint, you got a lot of people who are just putting stuff out because of a scarcity thing. They like, I got to stay relevant. I got to stay out there. So let me just put this out there. People are understanding. No, actually, people, if you put enough of that subpar quality out there, people will start to question, man, is this guy really good, or what's going on? I don't want that. Not at all.
And I think it also depends on where you're eating from too. So if you're eating off of tours, or you're eating off that you already have a record deal, your motivation is going to be different. And then also, I think it's something that also point out is that a lot of people with their products or their projects, they don't have a consistent theme through it. And one thing I like, and forgive me for because I'm about to butcher the damn name of it, but your newest project, In a Stock.
No, you didn't butcher it. It's perfect.
Okay,
He
because
got it better than I would have.
yeah, your most recent project, I mean, it was a consistent theme. And I think that's what a lot of rap projects, I don't give a shit who it is. That's what they really lack. Like no one,
Mhm.
I mean, it could be like it could be a good rap, good production, but no one has a consistent theme. And the theme that I took from the project was like the struggle. And it
Mm.
genuinely talked about the struggle. And it didn't talk about the struggle in the context of this is why I do dirt because we out here bad. Because I'm
Right.
like, that's kind of rote at this point. Like that's
Yeah.
some, people kind of bludgeon that, into fine powder. I mean, this is,
Yeah.
just this is talking about the external forces that cause people to one act a certain way, to do certain things, and about just the lack of support that's there. That's what
Yeah.
really just caused it to exist for so long. And that's one thing that I come in for the project. And I didn't even get all the way through the project, but I could just from the
Thank you.
first 4 or 5 songs that I got the opportunity to listen to, I saw that there's a consistent theme in this project. It's not like you going talking about the struggle to talking about a romantic interest to talking about why I don't
Yeah.
like these rappers, about how I'm fresh on this song. It's a consistent theme, and I think that's something that really, especially in today's environment where everybody's all over the place, that's something that's missing.
Yeah. I think it takes a level of vulnerability to be consistent that way because a lot of people approach rap in a contrived format. So they're like, I got to make a song for the girls. I got to make a song for the streets. I got to make a song with bars. I got to do that. And they try to formulate their sound. And I don't think that works as well today. I think people have lived enough life. I think the way in which we think today, I think people are kind of like, give me something that I can relate to, that I can gravitate towards, something that I could see myself in. So we don't want to hear too much about everybody just bragging about how much money they got or talking about, how they stunting on everybody. We just came out of a pandemic.
It
Oh, and we
that
still in one.
and that's another thing. It takes away from like there are some rappers that are good that probably could be great, but they just beat like certain things if they're not talking about how much money they got, how much dope they sold, how many people they didn't kill. It takes a lot of it takes. I mean, there's very few rappers that are that good where they can talk about just some basic level shit and be like, damn, that person's good. And it's only like I can count them
Hmm.
on one hand. I mean, and we probably all ashamed. I mean, of course, it's the Griseldas, and some of that even gets old to me at some point. The Coke rap kind of beats me over the head. I mean, there's Gibbs. I mean, it's not that many people who are really good at that. Talking about something that's basic or foul, for lack of a better term, and making it sound good. So,
Hmm.
like, for the rest of us, you got to figure out a way to be able to articulate your position in life, where you're at right now, your
Yeah.
struggle, and to be able to do it in a way where you're not just trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator because everybody's doing that.
Well, I
Yeah.
think with a lot of artists is, like you say, is we definitely talk about the lowest common denominator, but even with some of the artists who we do like you say, like a Griselda or maybe a Pusha T or something like that, they have their lanes that they sort of stick to, and they have their constants that they have in their records and their their overall personas that they rely on to as so it's sort of like maybe the constant drum beat or the or you probably say it better than me, Neak, like that initial beat that you have on the
Yeah.
drum,
It's just
that
like
back,
it's
yeah,
just
and then
their
and then
signature
they
sound.
layer, yeah, they offer variations of that, over that backbeat. But the thing I think with Unique, and I want to talk about this in not only in the context of your latest project, but the project before that too, is that you in your most recent works, you seem to really be trying to touch on some elemental things, or
Yeah.
life really is really focused on a lot of things that are basic in life. And this is where, when you really get to true artistry,
Hmm.
your concepts don't necessarily have to be so grandiose,
Right.
when you're making music. You can just speak to the most simplest things, but do them in a way that it can be so appealing and really just make you whether it's a song that makes you want to dance a little more, or nod
Yeah.
your head, or just sit back and really take it in and sort of exist all in your mind. That's definitely the type of stuff that you can do. So, but I was wondering because I remember talking to you before Quesbar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm talking to you, and right after. God, give it to me again, Dave.
And it's side. And it's
In the
In the
side.
side.
sky. Like first off, beyond the foreign, the use of the foreign languages, which is something you don't necessarily get from a lot of MCs. Is there any ties between these albums? Is it thematic or otherwise that you are feeling, or in just your processes from the way you created them? Is there any ties that you have that you formulated with these albums, and what did they both mean for you
No.
at this point in your career?
Okay. So it's three parts to this. So to give you context, like you were saying, you said you noticed that I started to deal with like the basic elements of life,
Yeah,
talking about music. When I used to approach rap, when I used to approach making music, I was always thinking about, man, I have to be one of the best out here. I got to be one recognized for one of the best for my lyrical ability. And what I started to realize is I was rapping for everybody else and not rapping about what I really felt.
mm,
So I was so concerned about what other people thought about what I was saying instead of actually getting to the root about what I wanted to say. So I had to switch that mentality, and I was like, okay, who, like, what do you feel? What do you want to talk about at the rawest level? And I would just write down words and write down different topics that I would want to talk about, and I just made songs out of them. And to add on to that, that's when I started getting really heavy into production. Because for the most part, Rashid, Hadi, and Sly, they handled a lot of the production for my projects.
yeah,
So when Quesbar came around, I produced the whole thing. So
yeah.
that was my
That's right.
first,
You did. That was your first. Yeah,
right. That was my first introduction to producing, and I always love live instrumentation. I always love adding live elements into hip hop. So I got a shitload of musician friends that as I was producing the record, I was bringing them along to kind of just give me a different sound that I wasn't used to, but to kind of carve out a signature sound of, man, this is Neak. This is how he sounds. This is his vibe. This is his energy. And that's how that album came about, Quesbar. Um, Innistrad, I wrote that in the middle of the pandemic. So to Dave's point, when you talk about I can hear the struggle, that's what was going on. That my senses got really highlighted to what I was seeing outside of my house. So as I'm going down 47th Street, or I'm going down, 53rd and Halsted, or if I'm riding around downtown, I'm going by Orleans where the old Cabrini Green used to be at. I'm starting to see the disparities between what Black people are going through from a socio-economic standpoint in comparison to the things that we not even paying much attention to in the pandemic. Like we losing our mind, we not our our sense of self is being questioned.
mm,
We starting to our identity is being challenged. All of the things that was normalized is no longer safe. So you hear a lot of that in the project. So that's kind of where I was mentality wise on Interside. And then I produced the majority of that one as well. Rashid produced on there a record, and Sade produced on there as well. He produced the record. But that record was kind of more stripped down, less raw. I mean, more raw, not too much instrumentation. It was just really, really heavy sample based. And it was just, I wanted to get straight to the point. I didn't want too much other elements kind of interwoven into the concepts. I just wanted to get straight to the point, like, man, this is what I'm feeling. Old sample chops, like on a song I did called What's Really Here. I just literally just described the whole neighborhood. That's it. That's
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something that it's one of my favorite songs on the album, and that
uh,
sample is so yeah, that one got played on repeat. Um, but
and
yeah,
you say the project wasn't even conceptualized before the pandemic. Was it? Were you thinking about it at all?
no,
When the pandemic? Not at all. Wow.
no. So
And you released it like in December, right?
November.
November. Okay.
So basically, around February, March, I was getting ready to go back on tour. I was getting ready to do some spot dates around the country, and I was getting prepared to go to Italy in May.
Oh wow.
Pandemic hit, obviously, you know the story. All of that shuts down. So at this point, it's like I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, I mean, I'm so shell shocked with what's going on. I don't even know what to talk about. And then after a while, I just got like a burst of inspiration. Because actually, to be honest with you, I recorded Interstar during the pandemic, and I actually have my next album that's getting ready to come out. I recorded during the pandemic, so I ended up recording 3 albums during that 5-6 month span because it was like an overload of feelings that was coming out, and it was therapeutic for me, in a way. But I wrote Interstar pretty much at that point because it was just like I had time to sit down, I had time to think. I wasn't distracted by anything else, because we was all at the house. I mean, we was all on lockdown. So
Right.
I just went to work. I told myself, I was like, if once this thing passes over or once we start to loosen up, I'm not coming out of this thing with no music. Like I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. I was like, if I'm gonna do one thing, I'm gonna make music, and that's what I did, and that's how those 2 albums. Well, and the Quest Bar came out 2019, but that's how
Yeah.
Inside and the new album that's getting ready to come out in a little while. Those 2 joints got made at that time.
But yeah, we definitely gonna talk about what you got coming up. But I want to go back to that those initial feelings like you had about a year and a half ago when everything shut down. Like you were embarking on some new exciting things, touring, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Trip to Italy, man. I'm sure that would have been exciting for you.
It's
But
still in the works. It's just getting rearranged. Like
yeah, you just pushed it back.
yeah.
But how did you take it at first when it was like when you knew that this was going? Because I know for me, man, it was like when through March I was pretty much straight, but there was sort of like a time in April going into May where I kind of shut down, and I don't know what it was like
Wow.
for you, but
We was on the
it took
same
it
page,
took a
bro.
little while to come out of that.
We was on the same page because
Yeah.
because at the end of when March came, it was kind of like it was a lot of ambiguity what was going on. We didn't know what was going on. All they were
Mhm.
saying was, okay, the COVID-19 virus is spreading, and you started things slowly shutting down, and then after a while, it was like, okay, everything shut down, and New York was shut down, Chicago was shut down, Detroit, and all of these other cities, and then all of the opportunities you had was put on hold, especially in our industry. The music industry was completely shut down. So at first, I was like, okay, let's see how this play out, and then maybe like to your point around April, and when they was constantly talking about there's no end in sight.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, wow, is life really about to change to the point where we have no idea what's about to come? We have no idea, like all of the relationships, all of the things that you built up, it was like a gridlock on them. So it was like, damn, is this like all that hard work for nothing? Like when
Yeah.
I'm getting an email from the promoter in Italy, he like, man, we got to shut down the tour and we don't know when we can do this. I'm like, out of all the times, anything can happen. So I was kind of like you. I shut down for a little bit. I would say between April to about the end of May. Then I started getting inspired again, and that's when I started going, really recording really heavy. I got
Did that come in conjunction with some of the uprising and upheavals that was going on?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was like it was just kind of like with a lot of the uprisings and things, especially around the time when George Floyd died. It just made me realize what was really important at the end of the day, you know. And it was like, okay, what is really important right now? you know, I can't control what happened in the past, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I can decide how I want to show up right now. And I told myself right now, I'm going to express myself. I'm going to continue to work on my craft, and I'm going to continue to improve the best way I can. And man, I mean, our whole collective, man, like Rasheed recorded like 2 or 3 albums during that time. Fillmore probably recorded like 4. I recorded like 2.5. So we were like really like engaged with our art because we just had a lot of stuff to say. I'm pretty sure everybody had something to say, but it was
Y'all
just
all have come out with stuff before the pandemic ended. Yeah, all y'all did. So yeah,
yeah. So
it
that's
was pretty fruitful for y'all.
yeah. So to your point, yeah, a lot of the stuff that was going on around that time, it lit a fire in all of us.
Yeah, and it's as a thoughtful, conscientious brother as you are, how do you sort of navigate or negotiate that? Being that things are, and we're gonna talk about this in a second here about how things have been going more currently, but when you have to, I guess that's part of the reason why artists are here, why we need artists in moments like that we had last year and even currently, to be able to speak upon the negative things or the transitory things that are happening in these things where the average person can't really speak on them as eloquently. So we have artists to speak on them more eloquently. But you still have to go through those things and see so much pain and suffering in the world. Like, the pandemic itself, we lost, thankfully we're all still here, to see
Yeah,
this point where we're getting past it, but there still was a lot of loss, human loss. And,
lost a couple of people in my family.
yeah, me too, man. And, there's a lot of people lost less important things too, businesses and such, but for a lot of people in a lot of ways, it was, I was going to say, when you was talking about how coming to grips with the changes that were going on, it's hard not to think in sort of apocalyptic sort of ways, and, for a while there, it really, yeah, like you said, it seemed like we may reach a point of no return. In
Hmm.
fact, I'm thinking about it now, like, even though, again, we're dealing with some shit now, but
Yeah.
we're sort of at a point of normalcy again. And I think to get at this point at, again, just a year and a half away from really a really bottom point, is sort of a miracle to me. And, like I said, a year ago, I wouldn't have thought it. I thought we would have had a longer way to go than we
Oh,
did.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was even in my industry, they was talking about live shows wasn't coming back to middle of 2022, if that.
Yeah, there's a lot
Like
of projections like that. Yeah.
yeah. So and it's like now, I mean, people have full tours right now, and I'm kind of like, I'm not there yet, but I mean, it's promising to see. I mean, I think with everything and us coming back into a level of normalcy, obviously there's a lot of economic interest with this. A lot of people got their interest in. Um, I just think that at the end of the day, you have to go back to what lessons that you really learned through all of this. Because if you don't come out with some form of wisdom or some form of new way of thinking for the better moving forward, man, I feel like it's almost wasted time, man. We got some precious stuff during this time as well. We got our time back. So we were able to really like recalibrate ourselves and really focus on the things that were important to us, to our growth and our evolution.
Definitely.
Yeah. Hey, Neek, I wanted to ask you two quick questions. The first one being, one, and I don't know if you get this question often, but I mean, we're with Chicago rap. People there's two. I'll say there's at least two camps, more than of course two camps. but I'm really interested in learning what makes people tick, and we all grow up in the same environments.
Yeah.
So, and just we may be a little bit older than the people that's on the radio, but not by much.
Yeah.
But what really I think for you caused the I guess the difference between going in that route to what's I guess the content that's on the mainstream radio and
Like
whatnot.
pop culture.
Yeah, well, not even pop culture. I mean, Chicago rap is different than pop culture. I
Yeah.
mean, pop culture rap right now is a strange, amorphous, thing that kind of appeals to like a lot, younger
Yeah.
listeners.
Well, it takes from a lot of different areas and different, we talk about geographic areas and different scenes and stuff like that. Like the amorphous point is very, is very, you're very on with that, Dave. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of Chicago stuff is influenced the heart of what, hip hop is, for at least for the
It
kids.
it
The
it
kids as well.
It has, but the point is that the predecessors. You got. I mean, you got. So for Chicago, a lot of Chicago rap is based upon what is. Yeah, I don't want to say man on the street, what's going on outside the door, and not the best parts of it, right? And it's normally still appealing to I don't want to say the violent aspects of it. There are rappers from our generation in Chicago rap that focused on that. I mean, a lot of them may not be here to still talk about it,
Yeah.
but or they may not still be active. But the point is, they existed at our time, right?
Yeah.
So, especially if there's a generation that's older than us. Of course, the Twisters, Speed Not Moppers
Mhm.
that existed. What made people like you and just the Gold Standard Collective in general say, you know what, we feel for the same environments that y'all come from, but we gonna do what we're focused on, presenting our art in this manner instead of that.
Right. So for me, I mean, I was never that type of guy. I wasn't a heavy street dude in the sense where, I've been around it, I've seen it, I know what it is, but I never gravitate towards it. I always had like a bird's eye view when it came to that type of stuff. I know guys who had a bird's eye view as well, and they decided to portray an image or try to be a certain way because they thought that that was the way to get accepted. They thought that that's what people wanted to hear. And then you just get to a point where you got to be honest and authentic with yourself. It's like if you hear anything that I make or anything I produce, I want you to know like that's me. I don't want to put on a mask and try to pretend to be something or tap into a different energy. It's just not me because it's not going to uphold at the end of the day. And guys like you, David, guys like you, Kyle, like y'all authentic as well. So you'll see that. You'll be able to look at that and be like, that's not adding up. So I just always wanted to be at the end of the day just me. Whether you liked it or not, at least you can say, look, he is being him and he is being him 100%, because I feel like that's the only thing that's going to last at the end of the day is your authenticity. And I mean, you could go that route and you could talk about things in a street way where you're trying to like portray an image or try to boast yourself like you're not afraid of nothing, you ain't fearful of nothing, and you trying to show how tough you are. But that's not you. I mean, people gonna test you on that. But look what, man, we
Yeah.
come to Chicago, they gonna test you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, right quick. Now, I hate to interrupt you, but I gotta get this out right
Oh
quick.
no, you good.
Now, I'm talking about Dave.
Question, Dave, by the way, that's a great question.
Yeah, it was. And before you say your second one, this sort of a natural follow up to that.
Yeah.
Have you had people who sort of played that street role more and been in the street life a little more, whether they were connected to you already in your life or people who just come to you on the humble or whatever, that you found has connected to your music and it's sort of surprisingly or just in any way beyond what you would normally expect, because I say that because I think when you go back into the history of hip hop, hood, regardless of how hood or how tough you were, or there were guys of that nature. They always were artists that they gravitated to who were sort of left of center and stuff, like Tribe and Daylight. Like, take your pick. Like, those, they were hard dudes within those camps. Yeah. But there were also people who gravitated to them who you may not expect, like, or who were playing a role even, like, like Lil Pay, yeah. Or like, I'm thinking of like Dre saying how much Low End Theory influenced the Chronic, like stuff like, I don't know, like I'm just getting back to the meat of the question. Yeah. Have you found that you've had some connections with people who were maybe, like, say, quote unquote street or hood or thug or whatever, and to your stuff?
No, absolutely. I mean, like, especially like online, like cast, like, I think real gonna recognize real anyway. Yeah. And I think a lot of cats don't like the type of music that we make. It's kind of like, you don't really see a disconnect from older street guys from the music that we make. You see a disconnect from the younger generation, because the younger generation feel like that the older generation is kind of like downing them for the type of music they make or the sound that they have. So even they like it. It's just like, but they like, that's y'all, and I still rock with it. But where that resistance come in is because they think we downing them, So when it comes to the street dudes, yeah, I mean, they still hear the words and they still hear the lyrics. They still rock with it. They recognize it for what it is. For most people, they look at stuff like that from marketing perspective. They look at it like, oh, I like that, but it's not a radio hit for me. Like, I know I have to make this type of song to be able to generate this type of following and get these type of people to rock with me. So I feel like with a lot of street dudes, it's not that they don't like it. They rock it. They fuck with it real heavy. It's just that when they look at it, they like, well, he's just staying true to the underground, Yeah. But them, they like I rap over that, but that's not gonna get me to the bag.
That's there you go, and that's the see. In the end, so much of it is about what's gonna get me to the bag, what's gonna get me to these bras, what's gonna get me to that rap plateau, that rap lifestyle. That again, that's the lifestyle that Dirk is after, that Polo G, that Herbo, and all that, all them cats who are representing the city heavy now across the country and stuff. That's the life that they have gone after. And so the average cats who come from this city, who don't have necessarily the thoughtfulness that you have or others like you, in the end, for them, it's all about get what's gonna give you to that bag, what's gonna give you that fame, what's gonna give you that lifestyle.
Yeah, because a lot of, I mean, that kind of goes back to earlier. Like, you got to know for yourself why you do it. For me, one thing that I appreciate is when people can say, I can relate to that. I fucks with that. I see myself in that. I understand that. Like, I get that point of view. So it's kind of like, for me, that's where my motivation comes in, because that's where the healing come in at. Where people can say, man, I'm not the only one to feel this way. I'm not the only one to see this way. As far as like the money and things like that. I mean, we grown. It's nice to have money. I mean, you go get your money. I ain't knocking that at all. But that's, to me, that can't lead me. That can't make me make the decisions I make for what type of music I make, for the way I show up, none of that. But as far as an artist, I tell any artist, study the business, learn how to generate profit, understand, like, how to sell merchandise and how to leverage your brand. I mean, I think that's great, but you just can't let it lead you. You can't let it be the final straw for what decisions you make for your art.
And to that degree, I gotta say, you are one of the most industrious artists that I've known at your level, because the way that you've done things, especially like, say, pre-pandemic, the way that you were putting out shows, producing shows, and really providing platforms for yourself and others, it really was admirable, and it shows that it showed a ability to project a longevity for you that a lot of that's beyond. It seems a lot of artists who they may have good intentions, but they may not have a certain kind of savvy to have longevity in the game.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that could have happened to me is, I'm gonna take this to the event curation side, the show side. One of the best things that could have happened to me is that when I first started trying to get involved in the scene, a lot of people, and rightfully so, I get it, they wasn't rocking with me. And it's because they looking at it like you gotta build yourself up. I've been doing this, and here you come wanting to collaborate and get engaged and get involved. Like, no, go put the work in. That was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it made me sit back and say, well, if you did a show here, who did you talk to? So now I need to talk to the person that you talked to. And there was a lot of this industry base that we think is difficult. It's not that difficult, bro. We think like, oh, this person is holding rank here, or they keeping us out of here. And in some situations that is true. But in a lot of ways, if you know how to grind, like you said, if you have the savvy, you know how to grind, and you know what you want, and you know how to convey to people not just what you want, but how it's going to serve them as well, and you can set up a tour. Like I set up 2 tours, 25 cities a piece, generated money, was able to come out in the green. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. But what other option do you have? You can sit back and complain. You can sit back and point fingers, or you can do the work. And I didn't want to do that. I wasn't going to allow myself to let somebody else be responsible for where I go. It's like, if this person wants to keep me out, I mean, that's fine. I'll just do what I can and then trust God for the rest.
Yeah. Well, piggybacking off of the two very valid two comments you made. One, with the kind of the way back when you were talking about having the relationship between the street and having those people appreciate you, and about a lot of rappers being more, I guess, focused on whatever approach is going to get them to the bag quickest. I think there's a bit of a you hit a spot head on the head correctly, because there's a way where you can, one, be truthful and still be technically skilled at it, and that's what Rolf Rashid and Fillmore is real good at. There's nothing, they don't shy away from telling what's their truths and what their experience is, but at the same time, they're able to do it with a high technical level of skill. And that's, I think, a lot of times where the young boys lose me. And the thing is, they're not deviating from what was done before them. I mean, historically, you got you had the rappers on the West Side, you had Twister, you had Speed Nine Monster, you had people that had technical skill and could be able to talk about, what street life was, and be able to do it in an articulate storytelling form, versus what's now, where, to be honest, a lot of what's popular really seems to be catching the listeners in a state of inebriated. I'll be honest, either drunk or high. I mean, I'm just keep honest with you.
Oh, no,
You're right. You're right.
And I mean, and that's the thing about it, is that a lot of the music that's geared towards the youth has some like levels where it's like you have to be under some level of substance to be able to appreciate it. Like, I can't appreciate. I don't know. That's sober.
And Dave, a lot of their reference points, they don't stem past a couple years ago. Like Keith is almost ancient to them now, and that's going back to like 2012. Like that's like us looking at '86 as a time of a golden era, or a time where hip hop first emerged at a certain point, and to something that we came of age in. For a lot of the kids who are making music now, they look back, like say, to 2012 or something like that, or 2013, 14. Like, that's their reference point. Beyond anything beyond that is the Stone Age, and they don't have because of that, they don't have they're not students. They're not. They don't have the references, the technical ability, like you say, Dave. Like Hadi, of course, knows everything about music from the past 5-6 decades, and Fillmore knows anything about any MC, from any generation of hip hop. So they're studious in that way, where they can reference anything and do anything that they want within that tradition of hip hop. And if people just, I don't know. I don't know if the kids think it's restrictive or like Neek, like you say, Neek is they feel they're under attack by our generation and other. But it's like if you studied hip hop for real, they would know how much is like how it would open up so much for them creatively if they studied hip hop from the '90s and really studied from the '90s and the '80s and all that stuff. Man, it would be so much better for them, but they don't
If
care.
if the niggas studied at school, it would be better for him. I mean, I'm not even going
That's
that
true.
far. I mean, like, it's just really just saying. I was at one of Dave Helm shows out here a couple of days ago, and ultimately he was telling me, he was making a joke about his students, making fun of, I guess, a student in a wheelchair, and saying that, he called him half transformer, and then he was like, though, before you get mad about it, he was like, this is pretty ingenious for students at high school at a third grade reading level. And that sounds like a joke, but back from my time when I was in the classroom, that's real. And that was several years ago, so it's just got perpetually worse. And there's a lane, and to be honest with you, there's a lane for I don't say drug rap, but and I don't mean drug rap like trap rapper. I mean drug like you on codeine rap.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it saturated the airways. I remember like 15 years ago, I told an uncle of mine, who was my, I guess, earliest hip hop influence, that I like 3 6 Mafia. And he was like, you into that dope fiend rap. And I was like, and I had never thought about it at that point, but like at the time that 3 6 Mafia was big, they were the only people, rapping about, drinking, sipping codeine and whatnot. At least that was on the main levels. Texas, it was, some guys out of Texas, it hadn't blown up to that, to popularity.
Yeah, we didn't know them for that stuff yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So like outside of like sipping on some scissor is 20 years old now. So at the high school, early college age, that was what that was the only frame of reference that I had. But now it's everywhere. I mean, and I think that's the point, is that it takes away from their ability to be able to say, hey, you know what, maybe we should explore other things than what we got going, than just this drug rap. Because the thing, and it, as a listener, it makes it really difficult to be able to have appreciation for the younger generation. I mean, if they're showing some level of technical skill, you got, what is it, a Corday? I mean, you got a handful of the younger guys that are doing that, but the majority of them are just focused on either rap that just deals with, just abject violence, or just dealing with just heavy substance abuse. And you mentioned Keith. I mean, Keith is, I think, struggling with his lack of relevancy now, and that's the reason why he's heavy in the drug use as it is now. I mean, and that's what you see. What happens to a lot of them is that the one-hit wonders, for lack of a better term, or the limited, staying part artists, once they, burn out, they start leaning more into like the substance abuse, and that's the reason why a lot of them have actually have died in the last several years.
We've had
I
quite
mean,
a few,
and
him,
either gun violence or Juice World, the
Juice,
people, a couple people
Fredo.
out of Fredo, a couple people out of, what's the New York camp? I can't think of his name. Dang it, they not young anymore.
Not Pop.
Sorry.
No, I was thinking of Pop Smoke.
Yeah, Pop Smoke.
He got killed.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of, there's a lot of rappers that just, if they not getting killed, they having issues where they die from substance abuse, and at an alarming young age. And like the reality of it is, they don't understand that there is like an area where you can create good music and it not have to just be so limited to this one thing. Whereas I gotta be high to listen to you. And then the second part I was going to ask you, because you kind of touched on it with the, getting your bag, is the, one thing recently that I thought was impressive, that was interesting, that hopefully more rappers, jump on the bandwagon, especially with COVID. Even with COVID's restrictions, loosening up, for those who don't want to tour yet, is doing the online concerts. Like Freddie Gibbs just did an online concert, and it was a little weird, but at the same time, it was $20 to see him online for 40 minutes, just rip the stage. And I mean, I think that's a big revenue stream that a lot of people are not taking advantage of.
You had told me about that day. I didn't wind up seeing it, but where did he wind up doing it?
Some place out here in LA, some concert
It was
venue.
like
And
a
I mean,
regular type of venue.
yeah, I mean, it was nobody there. It was just him and his DJ going through songs, him ripping on an empty stage. But for the, a lot of people that were commenting on it, they was like, you know what? It was a well spent money. And for those who are not comfortable with going back into like crowded events, I think that could be a great revenue stream. And they still want to see their people perform. I think that could be a great, just opportunity.
But Neak, I want to talk about some of your plans that you have for the near future going forward as far as performing go. But have you thought of anything? Have you had any thoughts about maybe doing any virtual shows or anything of that nature? Or has anybody approached you
Yeah,
with
well,
anything like that?
but through the course of the pandemic, like I was offered to do 4, I only did 1, and
Okay.
actually, it is today's point is it is a lucrative thing. I think that if you have fans online and you got people that want to see you, I think even before you say, "Hey, do I want to do it?" If you're not sure, ask them. Ask your fans. Put the question out there. See what people say, because you may miss out on an opportunity that people will want to see you perform live. They may not want to go out to crowd. They may not
I,
want
I
to with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I would assume that more of it would go to you. More of it would go money. More of the proceeds would go to you as an artist because there's less overhead. I'm assuming there's
Oh,
no security. There's no. I mean, you're not renting the venue the same way. There's no, what is it called, bar
well,
cover that you have to
no,
meet.
absolutely, it is going to. I think that, see, and this is why it's important to kind of take a step back and evaluate where you are as an artist, because right now, okay, outside is opening back up, so you do get a lot of venues who are approaching us right now, saying, "Hey, look, come perform. We'll give you a date," because they're trying to fill their calendar up too. They've been losing money too. So, but you got to know your fan base. You got to be in tune with them to say, okay, do they want to come back out? Or they may not be ready for that, but you can still host and do different things that can still, build a level of connection.
Hmm.
That don't What people don't feel like they're at risk. Like, for example, I had with the Interstate, I released a vinyl and I had a panel discussion. So it wasn't
Yeah.
a performance, but I was able to bring in a limited crowd, and we was able to just talk about the album and I had Ad Two, I had Obari Cartman, and I had Augustine. Heavy educators in their own right, but that was just as fruitful as actually doing the show. So you just got to
And
know.
yeah, that's what I wanted to get into. Like, I was going to go right into that. Like, most artists wouldn't have thought of something like that. Like, that was like, we've spent a year and a half not performing. I'm gonna have a panel discussion,
Oh,
you know.
fresh
But
out.
it was cool though, and like the spot the spot you had it at was cool. 606
Yeah,
is a nice record shop out there
yeah.
in Pilsen. And I say I commend you. And I wish I could have made it. I wanted to, but
It was
it seemed like it was pretty good.
it was raining real bad that day.
Yeah, it was a wet day that day. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of like my thing was, if I'm gonna do something physically, like right off the bat, I just can't go back doing the same thing that I did already. I
Mm.
can't be that selfish to think that people haven't been dealing with stuff. So why would I want to just be like, oh, we about to pack out this 100 and 200 place spot and we're gonna go right back to where it was? It's like,
Go back to Emporium was like,
no,
yeah.
right? Because people, they may not be ready for that. Or some people are. Or man, give people a different perspective, give people a different experience. They appreciate that. They appreciate the fact that you put thought into doing something different that they can benefit from. You know.
What
So
was the discussion like at the with Obari and Ad two and everybody at the event?
no, it was really good. We focused on the things from the actual album, and we centered our conversation around that. And by design, by not our own. For some reason, we went real heavy talking about youth and how the way in which we live our lives, how that influences them, and how we need to be better stewards of our lives instead of pointing the fingers at them and saying what they're not doing. So it's like you get a lot of heavy criticism from the older generation about how these young kids are wild and they doing all of this crazy stuff in the street, which is true. It is very true. But they learning it from somebody.
Mm.
So if we was talking about self accountability and not we think that to make change and to make these different changes in our neighborhood, we think we got to do this big grandiose, pass a bill, get the alderman involved and all of these type of things, which we do. But ultimately, it's just the small things you can do. Mentorship, figuring out how to sow back into your community through donating your time. Donating your time and energy at your local church or your local organization, or getting to know the alderman, understanding the political, economic, aspects of your community. Just the small things that we don't think about that we can really start to really make a difference. And that's kind of where the conversation went. And Ad, he runs Haven Studios,
Yeah,
right out here in Bronzeville. So he was just talking about how much people will approach him and say, "Man, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing." And he's like, "Yeah, you glad, but why don't you help me? Why don't you inquire about what it is that these kids need instead of looking at the news and saying, 'Man, these kids crazy.'"
yeah.
So,
And you know what? The accountability thing really resonates with me, man, because I look at these reports now, and me and Dave were talking a little bit about, coming out of the weekend and everything, and the numbers and the way Chicago is depicted and stuff. And, all you got to do is say these numbers: 100 people shot, 9 people dead, whatever, and it's the same stuff going over and over, and it leads to people painting Chicago a certain way, and then
yep,
these narratives, they take root, and then they become it become they become the backbone for certain, like you say, agendas to be formed, and certain things where now we're getting people saying, "Oh, let's get the National Guard in," and there's got to be something in between doing nothing and putting tanks down, our streets and avenues here in Bronzeville and back of the yards and Inglewood and all these places in Woodlawn. There's got to be something in between that, and it really exists, like you say, in places like Haven Studios and places and platforms where people can actually connect with kids and get involved in their lives, and not just badmouth them or browbeat them, or stand from across the city or the suburbs and say, "Oh, they're hellbound. Forget about them." And that's what it comes down to. But none of these people who I see on TV every day, this commissioner and Lori and all, they keep talking about these other things, like the commissioner keeps talking about how people are coming in and out of the court system and stuff. And I'm like, okay, that does happen, but it's not just this one group of repeat offenders who are shooting people in the city. It's like,
yeah,
the way they're painted it is like it's the same couple dozen people who are coming in and out of 26 in California every couple months and shooting people. It's like, no, this stuff is more widespread than that. It's more about mentalities and access to certain things, and no access to other things.
right,
It's these, they just are offering no answers, and they're passing the buck too, is what I really want to say. They're
yeah,
passing the buck, and they're not being accountable in their work, and they're just yelling at each other across the airwaves and stuff, and it's not leading to shit. But
yeah,
but one thing I do want to highlight is that, and this actually did get some play on one of the news stations I saw, is that in the South Shore area, I'm not sure exactly what exactly it was, but they did limit quite a bit of violence over the weekend. I saw a report on that.
mm-hmm.
And it stemmed from, I think, William Calloway and some brothers down that way. They were getting involved again on the street level, on a block level, with people, and keeping people from getting in contact with each other and getting in conflicts with each other. the city. We could go back to the violence interrupters and stuff. We know these. We know of certain programs and people who have put their necks on the line to keep violence from happening in the city. But again, we don't do enough of those things. We do these other things like shaming and blaming and passing the buck.
I think that. Oh no.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna think. So one, it's a nuanced issue, but I mean, the reality of it is that it's kind of hard to stop what's happening in Chicago through doing the measures that probably should have been put in place a long time ago. So, I mean, as far as ultimately, normally when municipal budgets end up, being pinched by, of course, the police and the firefighters' pension liabilities, they cut the things that matter the most. I mean, they cut mental health services, they cut a lot of the things that and they cut funding to programs like the interrupters and things like that, and programs like that where they don't where that creates some type of buffer in the violence. So right now things have gotten to a place where it's so bad now they're saying, okay, we can't handle it, let's call in the National Guard. And then unfortunately also you have an issue where probably local law enforcement feels that they're not being treated as they should be treated. So there's a lot of
Yeah,
turnover in attrition in the local police department, and that's probably also kind of combining where it's just creating this perfect storm, for lack of a better term, where it's just created a shit show in Chicago when regarded to violence. So the things that the mayor needs to be doing and a lot of just city government needs to be doing hasn't been done, at the times where it's mattered most, which is probably during the height of COVID. And as a result, now it may be too late to put in some of the social programs that would probably benefit the city and deter violence. I mean, these are things that should have been done in reality, years ago, if not decades ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of come to a head, so it's really hard for them to, I guess, work backwards. And now they say, hey, you know what? Now we just got to bring the hammer down because we don't. There's nothing else we can do.
Well,
yeah,
it's Dave. I think you touched on the two. Cal. The word is investment. Resources. There is none. So what do you expect if you don't invest in people? If you don't have any resources that can elevate their social capital, elevate human capital to the point where now you're acquiring new skills, you're getting invested in the things that you're passionate about, you're getting access to do the things that can give you a different perspective on life. What are you supposed to do? So I mean, yeah, it's been a lot of that money, especially during COVID, it was funded by the government. A lot of that money went to the police department.
Yeah.
It went to the fire department. So
Yep.
what do you expect? It's a powder keg. I know one thing that and it's funny. I work with this organization as a VP for it's entitled Rebuild the Hood, and we were able to raise $75,000 for a lot of small businesses who got raided here in Chicago because they couldn't get money from the city. So it was like knowing that it was like, dang, what can we do? Luckily we found a great partner in Law, who's a heavy fashion designer in Hollywood, who helped raise a lot of funds with us. We actually raised over $100,000, and we was able to help out a lot of small businesses in the health industry. I mean, healthcare industry, not healthcare, in the health and beauty industry, fashion industry, things like that, because we just couldn't sit back. It's like, I mean, I think people should just look at things, and when they look at life and they look at what's going on, it's just whatever God is telling you can do, just do it. It don't have to be this big grandiose thing. You don't have to create the next high-end nonprofit. I mean, it's just that at the end of the day, if we don't do something, like somebody has to do something, and whatever role you can play, just play it. And if you can't, for whatever reason, life is happening, there's no judgment there either. Because we all got our stuff that we're going through. We all got things that we're dealing with. It's just that we have to stop sitting back, waiting for people to do stuff for us and saying, well, I can't do this because of justifiable reasons.
I mean, that's a fact that a lot of money went to the police department. But what can you do? You know, you just got to do what you can do and hope for the best. That's the way I look at it. Because sitting back and not doing nothing is just as dangerous as them putting money in the police department and we not saying nothing about it. You know, it's
Yeah,
just
we know what their priorities are. We know what they're more willing to tab as important and to bookmark for funds and everything. So we gotta rely more on ourselves than we maybe would want to or that we're used to. But a lot of our communities got to come together more, man, and reach out to those who feel the most displaced, the most alienated. Because I think a lot of those emotions are simple that these folks are having. The ones who are more willing to brandish guns and shoot whoever out there. So some people are just criminals for real. Some people out there, that's their career and they getting into shit. But some people out here just bullshitting and I can speak to I'm not gonna go into much detail, but there was an incident on the 4th, like right in front of my house, that seemed to stem from nothing. And it came this close to being the 91st person being shot in the city. It was that close to happening right in front of my building, So it was. I saw all that happen. So it's like a lot of these instances, a lot of these things that happen, like they just these conflagrations that just pop out of nothing, and it pops. It sort of pop. It stems from feelings of angst and alienation and anger and just these things that people carry with them for so long, and they have nowhere to go and no one to help them.
It's called a transfer. I mean, it's a transfer of anger. I don't know if anybody I've seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but when I guess when Chadwick stabs the guy at the end of the film, ultimately he's transferring. It's been around for a minute. In any particular case, he stabs a guy not because the guy stepped on his shoe. He stabs it because one, the producer didn't see the value in his music, and had initially made promises to have him be a star. And the reality of it was, or his expectation was that he was going to be a star based upon his talent. The music producer said, brought him back down to earth, said, hey, you know what? This is not that really all that great. I'll give you $5 for it. And he was crestfallen. And it only took that next simple thing to happen for one of his bandmates to step on his shoe, and he transferred that rage or that rejection to essentially killing his band member. And it wasn't the person he wanted to kill. He wanted to kill his white producer, if he could. But I mean, that's not who he could take out his rage on. He took out his rage on who was the person that was the closest to him and the person that he probably could take it out on, and there not be any reprisal or repercussions.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens a lot in our communities. A lot of people take out their rage and their frustrations for things that are beyond their control, and they ultimately end up taking it out on the people that are closest to them, for just most cases, the most trivial matters that has nothing, and one incident has nothing to do with the other. Yeah. I mean, in reality.
Yeah, and
yeah,
and the thing is, a lot of us think was common knowledge to, like, when you learn something, it's common knowledge to you. We have an internal bias to think that it's common knowledge to other people, and it's really not. So you got a lot of people who are expressing themselves, like to your point, Dave, they're expressing themselves angrily, but it's so much deep-rooted hurt, deep-rooted pain, deep-rooted frustration that's just being manifested in that gun. It's being manifested in that fight or whatever the case may be. And, at the end of the day, it's like you can judge people and, we can look at people and say, they shouldn't do this or they shouldn't do that. And I do believe in accountability. Don't get me wrong. I do believe a person has to be accountable for their actions. It's on us to improve and evolve ourselves the best way we can. But ultimately, it's only so far you can go to a person who just don't know.
Mm.
You know, they just like that was a hard concept for me to swallow. Cause I'm like, man, how you just gonna take a person's life, or why would you get so upset over something so small? But when you understand, man, how generational pain just keep going down and down and down, pain getting unaddressed, 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 and it's manifesting in the way people expressing themselves, man. Man, we need, man, it's small stuff. People need therapy, man.
Yes,
Well, yeah,
indeed.
I think that's the point that I was trying to get to earlier. Is that one is just there's a deep lack of that resource, and anything during COVID, depression, suicide, alcohol abuse, substance abuse, all this shit went up through the roof, and ultimately a lot of governments, on the municipal level or whatever level, that's something they fail to realize. They just are just there's a lack of just, I guess, foresight, for lack of a better term, to be able to see like this is the problem, that people are dealing with a lot of trauma, people are dealing with a lot of stress and anger, and they don't have a positive place to put it.
Because they financially benefit from that trauma too.
Yeah, I,
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 but
I think they do to a certain extent, but I think we're at the place where we've seen a lot of the existing systems, the prison industrial complex, police, that ain't the place to house people with, really, in many cases, with mental health issues. I think
no,
we're finally at that. I think we're finally at that point where we understand that the
yeah,
issue at hand is that things have historically got so bad that we can't reverse the clock. I think that's part of the issue.
mm,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
to
It,
reverse the clock. Because I think to your point, a lot of people feel like a lot of stuff is a lot of issues that we have. A lot of people feel like it's a foregone conclusion. Like, I don't know how we gonna get through this. So I don't know. I mean,
I, I mean, I think honestly, I think with just like with platforms such as StreamYard, with Zoom,
yeah,
with online platforms, there's actually more opportunity than ever. Because one, there's telehealth. The issue is one, just making licensed clinical therapists available to everybody, and not have it being something that's predicated on insurance. So
yeah,
that being one thing. And then the second thing is being able to, one, make sure that they're aware of it, and then three, make sure and try to get rid of the damn stigma against it. Or that if you
yeah.
do it, you soft, you weak. Like I got it, over COVID, I got a therapist, and I was pissed off. The therapist I got, it was right down the street from where I lived.
that,
Up until
yeah,
and I was just like, damn, I wish I knew about you months or years ago.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and it tends to be an issue that a lot of people, especially in our communities, don't think about. And being from someone looking at outside in, no one has an idea of what the mental trauma it is living in a place where there's violence, where there's food deserts, where there's lack of health care. Like how that takes a toll on you. We look at people watch news, I guess CNN and things like that, and they're like, wow, I saw all this crazy shit going on in these other countries. And we got some of the same issues right here at home. And I think even what you mentioned on the what would Tupac say, or what Tupac said, and what would Tupac say, was like, we got we're giving at this point billions of dollars in aid to other countries, and we got problems here that we need to solve.
yep,
And that still exists today. And I think that even with a lot of the things that the president's doing, Kyle mentioned it earlier that Biden was in Crystal Lake, I guess, to talk about his education plan. I think that's kind of that New Deal approach is, which was good 80 years ago. I don't think it needs to be fine tuned a little bit to fit into a 2021 America, because there's other shit we need to be worried about than making sure everybody has access to JUCO.
Mm.
and pass it and making Juneteenth a holiday.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
These on the surface as things.
token actions.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing about it, is that both when people pass token laws, is that that are token acts, they're seen by both sides. There's some people in the middle that probably say, "Oh, this is nice," but they're kind of laughed at. They're kind of looked at by the conservative end. They're looked at by black people who know what's that, I don't want to say are woke, but know what a token act is being
yeah,
shown. And that's not really good to think. If you wanted to pass something, have the true healthcare program, have true mental health. I mean, all that stuff like that. That's the stuff that's important, man. You know, not this, not a lot of the other,
Yeah.
you know, superficial things that are in place. Where employment is important, right? I mean, but in a COVID environment, I mean, it doesn't have the same weight that it did even, you know, pre-COVID. I mean, people had a harder time finding jobs pre-COVID than they do now. There was an article in the paper about there being like job fairs at O'Hare and Midway and nobody showing up. So
Yeah, like 5 people showed up to when they lived
And
over
you know,
there.
to add on to that, you know, because the thing is, like, there's been a study, you know, with the U.S. Labor Bureau, Bureau statistics, where they talked about people have been leaving their jobs in droves. Like
Mhm.
the I think over the last couple months has been the most people have resigned from work in the history of it being reported. So there's something going on where people are saying that 9 to 5 is not good enough. I'm not doing it.
And
But
well,
people are looking more into getting their own ventures, or
well,
so,
or,
so like what would Tupac say to your point when he talked about we investing in other countries, but we not investing in ourselves. What people are starting to pick up on, like you said, with the token holidays, it's like, okay, if you really want to go there, then you already know there's a level of neglect that's been done with Black people in terms of investing in us. We talking about land, we talking about resources, we talking about education, we talking about a whole extensive reparations package that will get people from to get people compensated from 450 years of free labor that built the industrial revolution, that built this country beyond its, you know, economic wildest dreams. Whereas that if you're not having that conversation, then what are you really having? Because at the end of the day, that's what's the real issue. They even talked about it where there's a home ownership barrier with a lot of Black people because they're in student loan debt. So it's like when you go into the bank trying to get a loan to get a home, they're like, man, homie, you $100,000 in debt. Well,
yeah.
I had to because I wanted to get my education. That was the American dream. Obviously, a lot of our families in a generalized standpoint couldn't afford college. So what did you do? You went and got student loans. You went and got that money to get the degree, to get the job, or to get the knowledge it took to generate a high level income. So
And there's hardly any jobs that are available to us where you don't need a college degree where you can make enough to buy a home. Either.
I mean,
There used to be jobs like that.
it's to the point now. People are wondering, is the college education worth the investment, the return? Why
it,
would I
it,
why would I
it ain't. It
invest
ain't.
$100,000 and then come out and they like, okay, you're gonna make $50,000 a year? Excuse me.
Not. It ain't. I mean, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah. It ain't. Um.
And,
And I have
and
a master's degree, and I'm telling you, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
you got that from DePaul, right? The Masters.
Yeah, and the thing is, I love DePaul. I love my alma mater. It's beautiful, great with the resources, great connections. But I'm saying, like, as far as from the educational standpoint, it was the connections that I benefited more than anything than the actual paper of me saying I got a degree. Like at the end of the day, man, it's not advantageous for them to pay somebody who has a higher level of education when they're looking at you like a labor cost anyway, where they can pay somebody who can do the same job that's going to take less money. It makes more sense.
Yeah. Man, Neak, man, I would love to talk longer with you, man. We can talk just about anything with you. My battery is damn near dead though, man. So I gotta wrap up this show tonight. But
No, bro.
this was an awesome episode. You know, I definitely would love to bring you back just to talk about anything. But
Oh yeah, man.
you know, whatever you got going on that's you want to promote, you know, feel free to reach out. And you know already you can reach out to me about anything. So, but to that degree, you know, right quick, you mentioned you got some new projects coming up. To what degree do you want to release any information about those?
Okay, well, okay, so I'll give you. I got one project that's getting ready. That's on the horizon right now. Uh, I produced the whole project. It's a project that I did with Rita J. So
Oh yeah, I think I remember hearing you talk about that earlier this year.
Rita,
Yeah.
me and her got a project coming out. It's called The High Priestess. I produced the whole thing. Rashid
Okay.
Master executive produced that project. So I got that. And then I also got my next solo project that's getting ready to come out, getting mixed and mastered. I'm gonna hold off on the name and all of that, but I'll just tell you like this: it's real black. It is like very black. It's black.
Okay.
So it's just
It's like Alan Payne standing in front of the red, black, and green. I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all.
So it's just basically like all of the stuff we talked about, right? I felt like there's a root to that. There's a root to everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we experience in this country. So a lot of my songs is tailored around what's the root of all of this. So
That's what's up.
yeah, that project is done. It's getting mixed and mastered. We're looking to bring that out in the fall. We think that's a good time to kind of, bring that out and start doing some live stuff with that. Yeah, and then I've like I'll say this on Rashid's behalf. He's getting ready to release his album soon. I produced on there as well. Did a couple of joints on there. Got a couple of features. So that's kind of right now where I'm at. As far as what's coming up.
That's dope. That's dope. It's good to hear. We definitely looking forward to all that. Tell the people how to keep up with you and your work. Gold Standard Collective, all that. Whatever. How can you keep up with all that?
No, absolutely. You can visit my website at Neak neak-co.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Neak NEAK_undefined, just like the word. You can just look up Neak Chicago. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, all of the social media platforms, and yeah.
And one more thing, because going back to the event that you had at 606, and what was clever about that is that, like I said, you were promoting the vinyl version of In the Stock. And apparently you sold out the vinyl for that, right? The first run. So congratulations on that. Are you gonna be planning to do more presses of that with that you doing that with Culture Power 45, right?
Yeah, well, Culture Power 45's motto, if you know them, they don't repress nothing.
Oh, okay. I know they was vinyl strictly. I know they had that too.
So they curated, distributed the vinyl, and once they sell out, that's their whole MO.
Collector's item now.
Yeah, they like we don't do digital, we don't repress it. So if you don't get it now, then obviously you didn't want it. That's how they look at it. And
I love the brothers, man. I love there's some dope people who's putting out stuff with Culture Power. It's like, man, like you got to be on them because like you say, it's not they don't do things like everybody else does. So you got to be on what they doing. But if you're not on it, you missing out on some stuff, especially if you like the type of hip hop we like.
Taiwan Davis, he's a heavy key in that. Infinito, those two brothers, they got great minds. They know how to really create an interest in the product. So I love working with them, and they've been a blessing in my life. So definitely going to be some more stuff coming through Coach Power 45, and on the live show side, man, I'm taking my time, playing it by ear, but I'm definitely sure by the time we get to late summer, fall, some stuff will be coming out.
Well, that'll be great. That'll be great. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to everything that you're doing, man. Appreciate you again coming on. Dave, man, thank you. I would throw it to you for one more thing, but I don't know. I don't know if I got that time.
We're good to go.
I'll just say again, thanks everybody who support and stream, and you'll hear this on of course on our podcast version on Anchor.fm later this week as well. But keep watching it here on YouTube. Feel free to pass the links along if you like what we do. Monday again, Sky Zoo will be with us. Another in-depth discussion there. So yeah, Deep, watch us out. Check us out on Monday, man. I think you'll like that show very much. And That's it for now, man. We gonna turn around and prepare for that show. Me and Dave. We'll say back at it on Monday. And Neak, follow Neak, like he said, for all that great stuff that he's doing, man. Definitely if you love that, true school hip hop or that real hip hop, quote unquote, follow. This is one of the best sources right here coming out of Chicago.
Man, Cal, Dave, man, love y'all brothers, man. Thank you for having me.
Much love, bro.
Thank you for coming.
All right, man. That's it for now, man. We out in the building. You stay building. Y'all be safe out there. All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Peace.